So, yes. This is amazing, and I have to say I am looking at the world with a new sense of hope today. That is a result of other things, but among other things, a result of this election. And what I want to stress about this election more than more than anything, is there's a feeling that we have taken back the power. The people, the right people, the Christians, the rationals, the normal people have taken the power back into our own hands. And I think I was sitting there yesterday as the results were coming in, feeling that this is what it means to be living in a nation where you do have an impact, you do have a power, and our power did play a role in what happened yesterday. So we're going to talk about power. We're going to talk about the week of power that we're heading into. But again, the way I want to say this is that now that we have the power, this is the ability to disempower the enemy. And I want to talk about that a little bit on this one, to disempower Hamas with everything that's been going on in Gaza, to disempower the Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they're taking over Lebanon and using Lebanon as a base, to disempower all the rest of the proxies in Iraq and in Syria and in Yemen, and to disempower Iran. But I want to stress the fact that more than anything, and this is the bigger picture, okay, we need to take the power away from Satan, because Satan is the main common denominator for all these different elements. We need to take away Satan's power in our lives. And again, what we saw in this election is people saying, enough, we want to change what's going on. We need to take away Satan's power in our families. We need to take away Satan's power in our communities, in our country, and I think in the world. And I think more than anything, these elections with President Trump now in President-elect Trump now in power, God has given him, through all of the different mechanisms of a democratic nation, has given him the power to change what's going on and to take off on the evil. There's a hope that started in Washington and is spreading out to the rest of the world. I am very excited to say that I was part of the change. I was there. I went to vote, and it's very interesting to be able to say that I have done democratic voting in two different countries. And it is different. From an Israeli point of view, voting in the United States, it's more organized, it's more prim, it's all electronic, it's barcodes and computers. Okay. In Israel, for instance, you go into a classroom. You can't vote wherever you want. You vote on the day of voting, except very kind of rare occasions. And you put a piece of paper, a little piece of paper in an envelope, and they count the envelopes, which makes it easier to take control and harder to fraud. But what I'm trying to say is both systems in the end give a feeling, and I'm sitting here with a feeling that I am part of the system. I am part of this, and I'm glad to say that my Christian values, my democratic values, my Jewish values, and my Israeli values all played a part in what happened. And this is why this vote, this election, and what happened is so important. Looking at the news in the background, President Trump took control of the presidency, but he also has control of Congress. It looks like he's going to have control of the House. He has control, or has put in place, people in the Supreme Court, and it looks like God has given this man, for better or for worse, a full quiver of arrows to use against the enemy. One of the things that gives me hope is how much hope has been lost on the other side, how much hope has been lost in the eyes of the enemy, how much Kamala Harris and her people have lost hope in them pushing their agenda forward, and how I just now heard something on the TV, how the Iranian rial, the Iranian currency, has crashed because the Iranian government is seeing what's going on and actually has lost hope. Which brings me to the section that I want to connect to, because all of this needs to connect to the Middle East. There was a feeling in Israel and the rest of the Middle East that everybody was waiting for these elections to see who comes out on top, and basically to be able to maneuver what's going on according to whoever's on top. And the Israeli government has gone through a major shift. But before I get to the Israeli government, I want to talk about what's happening in Iran right now, because Iran has lost its power. And I'm going to say this, and this is something very, very specific about what's going on. Iran needs its power back. Now, let's make this clear. Iran is a bully, and a bully only has power through fear. Not because it's strong, it's because people are afraid of him. And here's the problem. Iran has created a ring of proxies, and the idea was that they wanted everybody to be not only fearful of them, but fearful of all of their proxies around. They were using the Hezbollah, for instance, in Lebanon, and the Hamas in Gaza as a stick to wave around in front of Israel and say, if you don't do what we want, or if you stand up against us, we will use this stick against you. And it is losing its stick. We're seeing that Sinwar threw a stick and didn't hit the drone, and Hamas has tried and didn't really take Israel down, and even Hezbollah is not the big stick that everybody thought it was, and Iran is losing its sticks. And in fact, one of the main proofs of that is the fact that Iran is now fighting this battle on its own turf. The whole idea of using these sticks is that nobody would come for Iran. And now, because they've lost the sticks in Lebanon, they're losing the rest of the sticks around the world. They are losing the fear of them. And now they have to stand up and say, I'm here. And now we're staring Iran down, and nobody's afraid of them. And that is a very dangerous situation, because Iran is nothing without everybody being afraid of them. They don't have the economy. They don't have the ability. They don't even have the geography. They've got a couple of things of that. But this stick has been staring down at not only at us, but at other moderate regimes, and including what's going to happen now. Because Biden is in power. Jordan, for instance, was trying to decide where we're going to go. We're going to go on the Iranian side, okay, or we're going to go on the moderate side. And now I think a move has been made, both on Israel on this side and from the United States. So all the moderates are now having to decide which side of this are we going to be on. And Iran has lost its fear factor, and as a result of that, it has lost its power. That has me worried, because the only way that it can restore its power is by using its stick, using its ability, or rekindling its fear. And I don't know if you've heard, there have been rumors of small earthquakes in different places in Iran, which lead some of us to believe that they're trying to put together a big stick to threaten Israel. And if Israel is not going to be threatened by Hamas in Gaza, and not going to be threatened by Hezbollah or the Houthis in Yemen, the only stick Iran has left to play, the only thing that Iran has left to play, is fear from the ultimate weapon, and that is a nuclear capability, which I believe they are trying to put together as we speak. I believe that is one of the reasons they're mainly keeping quiet after being attacked in such a comprehensive and direct manner by Israel after the last round of exchanges. And that is Iran trying to put together its big stick together. And I'm going to say it this way. They have to use it now, especially after these elections, where we know who's going to be the administrative power in the future. If they don't use it now, they're not going to be able to use it for the next 4 years, and maybe even for more, which is why this is going to be a very critical week, a very critical period, or I think it's a 2.5 month period altogether, until the Trump administration steps in. Iran is going to be trying to pull out everything that it can. We believe that there was an imminent attack actually on the way, and it was only stopped because of Iran, because of not knowing what's going to happen. I think that what Iran is going to try to pull off is an attack from other proxies, as much as they can from Iran, as much as they can from Lebanon, as much as they can from Iraq, and actually put Israel on its hind feet, which is why the missile attacks from Lebanon are still coming in on a regular basis. And I think this is part of what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months. In Lebanon, the situation is very, very complex because the Biden administration or the Harris administration, as it was still in power, was trying, excuse me, was trying to put together a diplomatic solution for the problem in Lebanon. A diplomatic solution says both sides would agree not to shoot at each other. The only problem is something major has changed because there was a diplomatic solution in Lebanon, 1701. There were other diplomatic solutions in Lebanon, and they were not upheld. So what the Biden administration was trying to do was push us back into a situation that we were in before October 8th when they started firing rockets at us. And Israel is saying we're not going to allow that to happen anymore. And a lot of things have happened, including Benjamin Netanyahu actually firing the Minister of Defense in Israel. One of the reasons, according to what we understand, is that Benjamin Netanyahu has realized that we cannot count on a diplomatic solution in Lebanon to bring our people back into their homes, and Israel will have to go in and hold on to part of southern Lebanon. And Gallant, the Minister of Defense, was against that, and not, again, it's a lot more complex and more than people think, not because there's no truth in that. I mean, again, I sat in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon, for 3.5 years. And we thought we would create a solution that would guard Israel. I think we pulled out of Lebanon, and that created a bigger problem in the Hezbollah. But I think both the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, even though not everybody agrees with him, have realized that this is a war that probably is not going to end completely until something dramatically changes. This is a war that's going to continue until, for instance, we change the regime in Lebanon. This is a war that is going to continue until we change the regime, maybe even in Iran. And I need people to understand that even though President Trump is going to be in power, unless a massive change takes place in the Arab world, where the hatred of the Jews is not as important as their own well-being, then we are still going to be in this in-between war. And I think Israel is actually thinking about this and feeling about this and actually planning for this in the near future. So we're making changes in Gaza. The idea is that there's going to be some kind of joint connection between the Palestinians and some international organizations, but Israel is going to stay in Gaza in the long term. It looks like that's going to happen. It looks like we're going to be staying in Lebanon for a longer term. And I don't see how the Biden administration is going to pull some rabbit out of the hat. The only thing that might change, and this is where the elections now have made a difference, is an overall comprehensive, all over the Middle East kind of agreement that puts Iran in a corner where they cannot impose their fear and as a result of their power and actually have them completely back down. We're not there yet. But I need you to understand something very clear. Israel will not stand down, will not give in, will not settle down until the safety of our wives and children is complete. And that is something that I'm not sure, and we're going to have to see how the how the Trump administration is going to kind of deal with that, because Israel is saying we are taking our destiny, we are taking the power back into our own hands. Again, that was much more of a problem with the Biden administration. That is less of a problem with the Trump administration. But I need people to remember that Israel has been wounded. We've actually gone back on the warpath, and we're here to make sure that none of this ever happens again. And that is what we're going to be looking for, how the new administration is going to impact what's happening even now, and how this in-between period is going to play out, and how Israel is going to interact with this new administration to make the changes that need to be made in the enemy and make the agreements that need to be made with our friends. So that is a situation. I am very, very happy that the power has been handed back to the people, that Israel now has the power to make the changes. And now we have to see how this impacts the future, both the near future and the further future, which is why, if you want to talk about the future and what's going to happen even further than this, join me and I think 16 other speakers in Temecula in Southern California this weekend, and we'll be talking about how all of this plays on the prophetic future and how this moves us in to what the conference is called the end of the world and how this is going to play out. So either join me in Southern California if you can, or online. I'm going to leave a link down below to how you can connect online to this. I'm going to be there. Chrissy's going to be there. Gijón Springs is going to be there with a table. So if you want to connect to Gijón Springs, that would be another place. Gijón Springs, as I mentioned, is a ministry that supports both the IDF and believers in Israel. And this is going to be a very, very interesting weekend. This is going to be a very, very interesting period. And this is going to be a time where we can say thank you to God for giving the power back to the place that it belongs. This is DaviD TaL. This is a Balagan Connection. Hope to see you either in California or online or here as soon as we can.